Are there apologies?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. If I may speak, it's Abraham here.
Yes, Honorable Abraham.
Yes, Honorable Morolong is just held up on the issue of the deceased MEC in his province. He's got some activities that he needs to attend to this morning, but he will join us later. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, and condolences to the family of Honorable MEC Gordon Kihakwile and the government of Northwest. Thanks for alerting us about that information. Those are the Honorable Ryder.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Sorry to jump in like that. Chair, also under apologies, please, if I may say that there is a plenary of the National Council of Provinces that will be starting at 10 o'clock and then running concurrently with this particular meeting. Now, I have a particular interest in that sitting of that plenary sitting, and I therefore need to disappear halfway through this meeting for a few minutes and then return to this meeting. So I'd like to just register the fact that I will be popping in and out of this meeting, but at the same time to place on record the fact that I'm not really happy that we are arranging committee meetings that run concurrently with plenary sessions of the House. It really makes it difficult for members to do their mandated work. And I understand, Chairperson, it's certainly not your fault, but it does come down to poor planning on the part of the programming committees. And I think we need to make the point that this should not become the norm. It's the second time it's happened in 2 weeks. I'm aware we're under pressure to pass this budget, but there are other aspects of our work that we also need to attend to, and that should be taken into consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, may I come in, please?
Okay.
Yeah, just to explain to members, especially new members, I agree with everything Dennis says. It's an unacceptable situation. It's beyond our control. But just to point out that even outside of COVID times, because of the nature of the work the Finance Committee does and the legislative framework within which we're the only committee in Parliament, as you know, Chair, apart from the Standing Committee on Intelligence that is prescribed for in legislation, and unlike them, we're the only committee that, for the reasons we've explained, in the Money Bills Act have onerous deadlines, literally deadlines by which we have to finish the fiscal framework so the rest of the appropriations work has to start. We have been given a blanket exemption for the last year as well. So, Mr. Ryder, we often sat in G26 with your colleagues, and then we would go into the House to vote. The difficulty, of course, Chairperson, is on the NCOP side, it's very difficult because we are so few in number. And I think we should record that. And on our side, as the chair of the committee, I will in fact raise it with Mr. Jomo Nyambi and Mr. Seiso Mohai. But we agree with Dennis. Unfortunately, it's been like this even outside of COVID times because of the deadlines and the load we carry. But he's right. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Honorable Karim. Yes, even putting together this report, it was quite very difficult because here are two committees that come from two houses. And there's no house which is above the other house. There's no lower and upper house. The two houses enjoy equal status. So you have a content advisor this side, a content advisor that other side. You have got a secretary that side,
plenary of
and the report has to go through all the parliamentary processes of both the NCOP,
I think we should
Select Committee and Standing Committee. So I think you will have to bear with us. This is a unique situation. We are used to being kept down. The Secretariat is in one place. We are there with them, put the report together in one place. But if a report has to go first to Peter Marisbeck, to Honorable Karim, Then he sends it to me in Malamulele, send it back to Zakele in Cape Town, to Esther somewhere. It's a bit of inconvenience. Hence, it took us so long to complete the report. It's something abnormal. And I hope with time and improvement on technology, things will get better. Equal status. Thanks for your understanding. A content advisor. Let's move right away so that we don't take much time and allow other members who have got other committees to attend to so that we finish in time.
I think we should
let's move right away into the consideration of the adoption and committee report on 2020 revised fiscal framework. The approach that I suggest that we adopt is that we don't go through the report right from the introduction. I hope members have done so. And if there are issues that you want them to be corrected, be it in regard to the statistics, the language, and a whole range of other things, you can forward that to the Secretariat. I would like, Honorable Karim, that we move right away to item 6, where we deal with the committee's observations and recommendations. Do you agree with that approach?
Chairperson, I mean, that is the norm, that we start there, really, because that's the key issue, really, at the end of the day. Just to remind members, Chairperson, as you know, this time around, unlike previously, the Secretariat got, I think they will speak for themselves, maybe over 80 to 90% of the stakeholders who made submissions, oral and written, to do summaries. And as I understand it from the team, they actually mainly use those summaries, and members are free to get copies of the summaries. So it's mostly in their own words, if I understand it correctly, that the first part is captured. The statistics are covered from National Treasury reports, and normally the only intervention they have in our report is to correct some figures if they are such. It comes through Cindy, and that can still be done. It's really the last part that the chairs take overall responsibility for because those are political decisions. Thank you. I hand back to you, Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Karim. So let's move straight to subheading 6, committee's observations and recommendation. I'll go through each observation and recommendation and allow members to make comments until the last one. Item 6.1, I won't read because it will take much of my time. I mean, I hope members have read the report. If ever there's an honorable member who wants to raise an issue on 6.1, you will so indicate. Alan and Kululek, you will assist me with the identifying members who would like to speak in our platform.
Will do, Chair.
From your side, is there a member who is Honorable Mahlang? Huh?
No, Chair.
She was raising something as okay.
No, I'm here, Chair.
Oh, okay. No, there's a message. It has got nothing to do with this meeting. 6.2.
Yeah.
You are welcome, Honorable Mahlang. And let's move to 6.2.
Okay, can I just check whether the recommendations cannot be put on screen?
Oh, it's Honorable Njand.
Just a request.
Okay. Alan Kulek, is it possible to put the PowerPoint presentation on the screen? Okay. Move to 6.2.
Chairperson, just a reminder to the team, from the NCOP side, the word standing committee there changes to select committee, right? Obviously, wherever there's standing committee, the report adopted by the NCOP will have select committee in Kululeko and team, right?
Yeah, yes, Chair.
Yeah, okay. That's what we advised, Comrade Chair, by the Legal Services Unit, that it's not while it's a joint report for content, for parliamentary procedure purposes, all that happens is you, Chairperson, on your side, adopt what we call the Standing Committee report, and we on our side adopt Select Committee on report. So wherever the Standing Committee on Appropriations or Select Committee on Appropriations, the NCOP changes this one and the NA the other. So we can't refer, in fact, Chairperson, to the Standing Committee on Appropriations. That's what the NA Committee does. We refer it to the Select Committee on Appropriations, whose chairperson is right here and has no idea, Comrade Chair, how much of work she's got. Because while you're writing, you told me offline. And members, this is true. We've been stuck with this problem and there's no answer. The new, fresh, bright faces, you must give it to her. The chairperson raised with me over the phone, and we've been endlessly on the phone. And our partners are getting worried about us talking to each other all the time like that. Where are we going? But really, it's business related. But, you know, the chairperson said to me, but Eunice, why is there this mechanical separation between fiscal framework issues and appropriations issues? But there are 1,000 reasons for that. And I think I should say, Chairperson, because you don't know, tomorrow I could get knocked down by a bus, and so might, who knows, hopefully not, Tikuleni Mashlangu. So just for the new members, we just want to say that, look, it's a long story, and maybe one day the politicians will speak to you about the Money Bills Act. But essentially, the load carried by the previous Finance Committee dealing with both fiscal framework and appropriations was too heavy to bear. And they felt we should separate those roles, although in NCOP that's impossible. So basically, we also realized that you can't expect stakeholders to come here and make a submission on a Wednesday after the budget's been introduced, and then come back 10 days later to go to the Appropriations Committee to deal with the Division of Revenue, and then 3-4 weeks later back again to the Appropriations Committee to deal with the Appropriations Bill. So a lot of the submissions overlap. But this time, may I suggest, Comrade Tikuleni, the number of proposals made that don't deal with the fiscal framework, but rather with appropriations is enormous, because it's really about allocating monies. Not so much when it is about the fiscal framework, but allocating monies to take into account the COVID-19 crisis. What goes to health, what goes to economy, etc. So that's why I think all these submissions in Kululeko and Allen has to be sent to our respective standing committees and select committees on appropriations. Thank you, Chairperson.
You are welcome for that clarity. Let's move to 6.3.
Chair.
Honorable Abraham.
Yes, Chair. I'm not sure if you want to continue with flighting the presentations because they are blurry. I don't know if that's only for my side, from my side. However, if it assists other members, it's okay. But Chair, I wanted to... Okay. No, Chair, I wanted to...
Yes, Honorable Abraham.
No, Chair, I wanted to check on 6.2. I thought that that was quite a long observation, and I am just wondering, because it talks about the bleak economy and how the domestic environment has deteriorated, and then it goes on to talk about the effect of the pandemic and the rates of poverty that's been affected. And it goes on about the ages of between 18 and 60 and so on and so forth. But I thought, Chair, we could work around that and make it much shorter, though the essence of the message is still there. I don't want to create a complication that says it could be broken down to 2 or 3 observations, but it could be worked around so that it is not as long as it is right now. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Abraham. No, I think you are right. There are quite a number of issues in 6.3 which are for nothing, which I think should be taken to the background and the introduction, so that under observation and recommendations, we are straight to the point. I hope the drafters are taking that into consideration. And thanks, content advisors and researchers, for putting the report together. We understand that you were working under difficult circumstances. That was in 6.3. 6.4.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Before just you move to Jadu, before you took 6.4.
Yeah, Mhlekazi.
Yes, Chair, I just wanted to make an emphasis on 6.3. On the premises, from the premises that we are moving as a committee, as a comment to emphasize from what premises are we moving as a committee on the report, in line with a zero budget, where we move from that the special adjustment budget is a bridge to the MTBPS of October. So that I think that is for just to make an emphasis as to where are we moving from. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Though the issue of a zero-based budget has not yet been introduced to us, it will be something new, I think, for quite a long time. And the minister has raised that before as a comment. And I'm not sure if Cabinet has adopted that as a new policy that they want to adopt. If that is the case, they will have to come to Parliament and brief us about that, because it has got a huge impact. It's not just a statement or just a concept. It has got a huge impact in the way that things are being done. I think Treasury will indicate when they will come to an item on their strat plan. Thanks, Honorable Njando.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, sorry, it's Alan Dion George as wants to speak on number 4, 6.4.
Okay. Dr. George?
Thanks very much, Chairperson. On line number 5, it talks about that there clearly needs to be a new, more effective relationship between the state and the market, with the state playing a more active role in the economy than before. I certainly do not support that statement. In fact, the state should play less of a role in the economy and then make it more efficient in time. We know there's a crisis and we know that government does need to do something, but certainly we do not believe that the state should play a larger role in the economy, and also that this virus should not be used as an excuse for the state to actually increase its role given its performance to date. So we would certainly not support that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's the view of Dr. George. I think it's a debatable matter as to what do we mean by a state playing an active role in the economy. I hear a voice in the background. Alan and...
no, I wanted to say, Chairperson, this is Zolani Mkiva.
Okay, Honorable Mkiva?
Yeah, no, I think, Chairperson, it is not just an issue of having different views and the fact that it's a debatable matter. At any given time in any given society, when there's a crisis that is confronting the population and the country at large, there needs to be not just an active role of the state, but a leading role. We cannot afford, Chairperson, to outsource the issue of the role of the state into the market. The state must always play a primary role in confronting the challenge that is before us. And that primary role should be a leadership role and a guidance role. So the state must be the lead and the guide during these difficult times. And it must lead not just the population, but including the market itself, and give it a clear marching line in terms of what needs to be done to confront the challenge. So I'm saying that you were also very kind to say that it must play an active role. It must be more than just active. It must lead. So I want to emphasize that point, that we cannot afford to outsource that responsibility to the market and allow the market to lead, because the market is driven by profits, my chairpersons. And therefore, in a time of crisis, they will look for an opportunity to maximize their profits. We cannot afford to allow that to happen. So I therefore move to say that the state must actually play a leading active role in that regard. Okay,
thanks, Honorable Mkive. That was the issue in regard to 6.4.
Chairperson.
Ulek and Alan, can you write to me members who want to make contribution on the management WhatsApp group? Who's raising the hand?
I think that's Vessel's chair.
I've got Mr. Vessel and Ms. Mahlangu, Chair.
Bara Vessels.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I agree with Dr. George, and I think it's dangerous to say that the committee believes. The fact of the matter is that we can all agree that government must create a conducive environment for economic growth and should create a conducive environment for us to be an effective developmental state. But that does not mean that the state must play an active role in the economy. So I add my voice to what Dr. George said, and I completely disagree with the fact that government must play an active role. They should rather create a conducive environment for the private sector to create economic growth and to create job opportunities. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Honorable Mahlangu. Honorable Mahlangu.
Honorable Chair, thank you. Chairperson, I think we need to weigh the wording and the responsibility of the state. If we say the state is the state's responsibility to create a conducive environment, how much weight is that? How big is that? How much of a responsibility is that? And I want to, with that, Chairperson, I want to support the statement here. And also to say, we can't give a responsibility to the state when it suits us, and when it doesn't, we say, no, it's not their responsibility. The things that happen in the state, in the government, they have a huge impact in the state of the economy of the country. The market reacts to what the state is doing or is reacting to issues that are in the country. So I think the statement is in order, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Mahlangu. Alan Gulek, is there any other member who want to make a contribution?
Not on our side, Chair.
Not 6.4, no, Chair.
Okay, let's move to 6.5.
Honorable Ryder, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Ryder.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yeah, just a comment. You know, sorry, I'm just trying to get it on my screen. There we go. So the item speaks to the 500 billion rand package. And yet several of the presenters that presented to us highlighted the fact that the 500 billion is not necessarily 500 billion, and there's a degree of smoke and mirrors taking place here, and that it's not a real 500 billion rand. I think that we need to perhaps build into this paragraph the fact that some oversight needs to happen from Finance Committee's point of view to ensure that that this money is in fact spent. In addition to that, the comment also makes reference to the allocations, the additional allocations going to SAPS and the SANDF, where again it was pointed out to us, and a point I made in committee as well, that the additional amount given to SANDF does not cover the additional costs that have been put on them by the President's employment letters. You know, those employment letters were quite specific and gave amounts of what the cost of the employment of the SANDF was going to cost. Those amounts have not been covered by the additional allocation. So we're effectively setting up a budget, knowing that it's not going to cover the expenses of the department. Now, I understand that may well have more to do with appropriations than with the fiscal policy framework, but it goes towards policy to set a department up effectively for failure. They're already having qualified audits and problematic audits because of the fact that they are overspending on human resources. Now they've been given additional human resources expenses and not being covered. That points to a policy problem and points to the fact that there's a disconnect between what Treasury is able to deliver and what's being demanded of departments by the executive. That is a policy issue, and that needs to be highlighted here. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Ryder. Honorable Mahlangu.
Honorable Chairperson, on a lighter note, I've been missing this. Just on a lighter note, Honorable Ryder, have you started contributing towards the 500 billion?
Absolutely, it was made from our part.
As a responsible South Africa, as a responsible citizen, have you started contributing? I have contributed.
Is it what? The Solidarity Fund? Honorable Mahlangu.
Yes, Chair.
Oh,
Yes,
are you
Chair.
done? Oh, are you done with your comments?
Yeah, I was just saying that on a lighter note, reminding on Friday.
Okay, okay. No. Thanks very much. 6.6. Honorable Njandu, can you see the screen from Matatiel?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. I can see. Thank you.
Une connectivity lapha ePumankoloni.
Chair, I was forced to install Wi-Fi.
No, you are moving with the times. That's the way to go now.
Yes.
Thanks, Mhlagas. 6.7. Six 0.8. $6.9. $6.10.
Honorable Ryder, Chair, 10.
Okay. Honorable Ryder.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, just in response to Honorable Mahlangu, absolutely, our party has contributed on behalf of every single public representative to the Solidarity Fund, but that's just an aside and a quick response. Chair, on 6.10, it says there that the committee notes the National Treasury expects the economy to contract by 7.2%. I think it's important to include the words "at least" in front of the 7.2, and I think that was the point made by National Treasury, is that This is their primary evaluation, but they did point out that other people are pointing to much bigger contractions, and I would like to see the words "at least" included in that sentence.
Okay. This remember, this is just a projection. It's not what it might be less, it might be more, it might be 7.2. So I think you are covered in what you are raising. So you say at least. So that's a minimum.
Chair, if it's less than 7.2, I will buy you a 3-course meal at a fancy restaurant in Cape Town when we're back.
Okay, hope we'll do that by September or October. Okay.
But
Chairperson, don't believe him. He offered that to me 5 times and he failed to deliver.
And he hasn't honored the promise. Okay, thanks, Honorable Karim. Honorable Mahlangu, you wanted to say something? Okay. Okay, let's move to 6.11. .12.
Chair, sorry, I put my hand up. I'm not sure if the guys haven't seen it yet.
Oh, Honorable Ryder.
Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry, I seem to be dominating today. I don't mean to, but the motivation. There's a comment there about asking for more realistic timeframes in order to meet the debt issues. Well, let me just get to it, please, if I may. So the comment is that the fiscal discipline and fast implementation of economic reforms requires a little bit more time. And it's the motivation for the fact that it needs more time says that moving too quickly to cut expenditure relating to key programs will further negatively impact upon the economy. Chairperson, I want to say that if a program is not working, if it's not providing good value, it must be cut. So, the definition of key programs is perhaps the one that bothers me here, because if there's a wasteful program that's not working, it must be cut as fast as we possibly can. Keeping programs just because they provide employment or whatever may be a problem, or it may help us in the short term, but it's definitely not going to be a long-term solution. And we must all take serious note that the primary balance stabilization needs to be achieved sooner rather than later, and that there may well be casualties in this regard. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Honorable Lewis.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and colleagues. I just want to make the point that this is not a National Treasury prediction, as it says in 6.12. It is a commitment of the Cabinet that they will achieve primary balance by 2023. I think that is a very welcome commitment and something that we as a legislature should hold the executive to very rigidly. It is absolutely essential that we achieve primary balance as soon as feasibly possible over the medium term, and this is three full financial years away. So it's entirely possible, and the Cabinet has made an explicit commitment to the country, as the Minister said in his budget speech, that this is going to be their policy. And I think that we should welcome that and hold them to it, and not give them the room to maneuver out of it by asking for more credible timelines.
Thanks, Honorable Lewis. As the last sentence says, the committee recommends that National Treasury should provide the committee with regular reports of progress made in achieving this target. So we'll hold them to their commitment. So National Treasury is the lead department in regard to the decisions of Cabinet. So from time to time, they will have to report to us as to how will they achieve that. 6.13.
Dr. George.
Sorry, Chair, if I can just propose an amendment to 6.12, please. If you can just make it National Treasury's commitment to a primary balance stabilization in 2023. There's an error there. It says 2020. It should be 23-24. So I would like to change the word prediction to a commitment and just fix that typo and then remove the sentence that says the committee recommends that National Treasury presents a more realistic plan with longer time frame. Remove that sentence entirely.
Why should we change prediction to commitment? Because that's what they are projecting, and it might not happen. I think they've put that word cautiously, unlike commitment, which they have to stick to. And if circumstances play the other way around and they don't achieve that. So I think there is a reason behind that word, Honorable Lewis, why they use the word prediction. Unless somebody can clarify who has got a better understanding of economic terms.
That's fine, Chair, but I would still ask that we delete the sentence which allows them to present longer timeframes.
Okay.
Chairperson, can I just raise something? I don't know if it'll help Mr. Lewis and yourself, because both of you are seeking a compromise. Can't we make it an expectation? So it's something that is not a prediction, and it's neither is it a commitment, it's the expectation. So we can say National Treasury's expectation of a primary balance. I think Mr. Lewis is right. The team can check it out. It's 2023-24. Maybe that sentence, Chairperson, the committee recommends presents a more realistic plan, because I think Dennis is right. We're not sure what key programs means. I think you and I know it's a developmental core projects like electricity, that's ESCOM, which they will disagree with and so on. So why don't we, it's not so crucial because elsewhere we make the same point. And some of these issues are about expenditure. Yet, of course, as people point out, it does relate to the fiscal framework. I think Dennis made that point. So it doesn't kill us if we remove that sentence, but I'm cool. If others don't agree, I'm fine with that. And while I'm on the floor, so to speak, perhaps I should say, Chairperson, that Mr. Wessels raises a good point, and we keep coming back to this. And, sorry, Chairperson, we keep coming back to this. You see, at times, Chairperson, if there's, like on the question of the cake state, we will never agree. And I think the ANC's position was well put out, interestingly, by a traditional leader, Nkosi Mkiva. We're not going to agree. So, sometimes what we've done, Chairperson, to avoid unnecessary quibbles, because these are policy issues that obviously we don't agree, and that's reflected in our multi-partyism. We sometimes say the majority in the committee. And Chairperson, you and I have discussed this. And perhaps I should repeat this because new members seem to not know this. But there is no such thing as a minority report in our parliament. Can we please all agree on that? Frank Jenkins has explained it many times. What we do allow for is a minority opinion within a common committee report. So towards the end, we can say the DA reserves its right on this report, but observes or objects to the role of the state set out in paragraph so and so on. So we give them half a page or so. In fact, in an exchange with Dennis Ryder, as I told you, Chairperson, I suggested he speaks to George and Lewis as well, and they give us half a page or something. Normally it comes the night before or on the day. So that's fine. As parties will disagree, Mr. Wessels, Mr. Lewis. So we can now and then, Chairperson, tweak it and say the majority. But we're never going to agree. That's all I'd like to say. That's the way we've done it. There's no such thing as a minority report. You can check with the Rules Committee. But we can have a minority opinion or a minority committee's report or a section of a report that's a common committee report. That's why, Mr. Wessels, we say the committee. But elsewhere we note that it doesn't include the DA. It's not going to include the EFF because they rejected its report. And it probably won't include, I'm sure, anyway, the EFF. Thank you.
I think thanks, Chair. We'll come to that when we come to considering the issue of adopting the report. Thanks for that clarity. But for now, let's stick to the items as they are. Honorable Abraham on 6.12.
Yes, Chair. I think Honorable Yunus covers me a bit because we are oversighters. We have a role to play in terms of the separation of powers. However, we must not see ourselves as an institution that seeks to catch out government per se. And therefore, our role should also be a role that oversights and advise, because we do not want Treasury to come up with unrealistic time frames. And we do not want, at the same time, because we must be balanced, we must be able to say to government, you know, these terms, these time frames are not realistic. And on the other hand, we should also be looking at the impact that the cut will have on the economy generally. And therefore, I think so far that part of the recommendation is well written, and we should not tamper with it. It is our consideration as a committee that really they shouldn't come up with unrealistic timeframes, and when we want to question them about those, they cannot budge, and yet we contributed to them coming up with such. So I think as it is, the recommendation is well written.
Okay, Honorable Abraham. I think Secretariat, can you make sure that you correct the time frame there, the 2020-23, as Honorable Karim has indicated? Is it not 23, 24, or 21? Let's get the period correct for the record. 6.13.
Dion George, Chair.
Chair,
Honorable George, Honorable Lewis.
I really do have an objection to the way that this this report is being handled, Chair. We make specific suggestions to amend the report. So far, 2 people have spoken in support of that amendment, and 1 person has spoken against it. But you just move on to the next one. So, what is the purpose of us doing this? Should we just let you adopt the whole thing and then we'll send our minority opinions? Or do you actually want our input on each point? I just want to ask that.
So, what are you suggesting, Honorable Lewis? You want us to vote on each and every point or item? Let me get clear so that we move together.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that when there's a proposal made for an amendment, that we consider it properly and decide whether that is an amendment that we support or do not support. So far, the majority of speakers have supported the amendment I've proposed, but you've just moved on.
Quickly,
is it the amendment and National Treasury's commitment, or on what? So that I'm very clear, because after you have spoken, Honorable Eunice came, and Honorable Abraham also came to speak on the same item. There are a number of issues. There was an issue of the time frame there, whether it's 2020, 23 or 23, 24. But you also raised the issue of National Treasury's commitment, and later Honorable Karim came with another formulation. There were a number of issues that were raised on 6.12. So just be clear and just relax as to which issue are you speaking to so that we can attend to you. There's no one who's bulldozing members here. This is a democratic process. All members are allowed to express themselves, different views, and at the end, we hope we'll reach decisions by consensus. On what issue, Honorable Lewis, are you speaking to on 6.12?
I I've proposed that the sentence that starts, the committee recommends that NT presents a more realistic plan, that entire sentence be deleted. And I support Mr. Karim's proposal that the word prediction be changed to expectation. I'm happy with that.
Okay. You support the National Treasury's expectation, and you recommend that the last sentence, that the National Treasury should provide the committee with regular reports of progress made in achieving this, should be deleted.
No, Chair.
No, not that one, Chair.
The middle
He's
sentence. The
referring
middle sentence. The committee recommends that National Treasury presents a more realistic plan with a longer time frame. That sentence be deleted.
What was the rationale?
Yes.
So that you can convince the members?
Thank you, Chair.
Well, I did discuss the rationale earlier, but I will say it again: is that National Treasury and the Cabinet and the Minister have made an explicit commitment that they will achieve primary balance by 2023-24, which is 3 financial years away, 3 full financial years away. So I don't think that we should give them an easy escape clause by saying that they must present a more realistic time frames. I think that we should support the commitment that they've made and hold them to it as Parliament.
Chair.
Okay, that's the recommendation of Honourable Lewis. Honourable Abraham.
Okay, Chair, I think.
Well, I've also asked to be noted, Chairperson.
Okay.
It's Chibam.
Chair, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Abraham.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. No, Chair, I think we just need to maybe say the committee recommends that National Treasury presents a more realistic plan with an equally realistic time frame. You see? So that, I mean, Honorable Hill Lewis just said it. We are giving them a platform to work on in terms of their commitment. And that's what we are here for. We are here to say, no, do not tell lies, because you know it for a fact that by this time, this will not be done. And therefore, do not bring us short time frames. Rather, bring us realistic time frames. Because as a committee, because we are not passive as oversighters, we are able to see that your time frames are not realistic. And therefore, it will be irresponsible for us to take that out. Rather, let us give them an opportunity to give us much more realistic time frames. That's what we're saying. We cannot close them up and want to catch them out. You know, that's not building a developmental state. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Abraham. Honourable Shibam.
No, thanks, Chairperson. Look, my observation is that the ANC study group has adopted the report, and you want us to rubber stamp as the committee. And even if you had said something progressive in this adopted report, National Treasury isn't going to comply with anything. It will continue with whatever framework that they've proceeded. Ourselves have made a submission in the email to say we're rejecting with contempt the entire report. We don't agree with National Treasury. We don't agree with the ANC study group. We don't agree with the manner in which this process is being handled. So you will note at the end of these conversations, I think it's a useless exercise in any way, that the EFF is voting against, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay. Thanks, Honourable Shibambu. Honourable Vessels.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with Jordan's suggestion, and I disagree with the honourable member that just spoke that National Treasury gave that prediction or that time frame, and the fact of the matter is we cannot actually afford to go beyond that. And the fact is that let's keep them to that. It's not our place as a committee to now say it's an unrealistic time frame. We know it's a difficult time frame, but certain things need to happen, and there's fiscal discipline and measures and reforms that should be in place to save the economy. And let's remove that sentence and let's not recommend any more realistic plan. Let's remove that sentence. I support that proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Agreed.
Okay. Thanks, Honorable Vessels. Any other member want to speak on 6.12, or those are the members that wanted to make contribution? Okay.
If I may speak again.
Okay, Honorable Abraham.
Yes, Chair, if I may speak again, I'm thankful for Honorable Shivambo's openness and honesty about their stance on the entire report, for that matter, by National Treasury. I wouldn't like that the DA seems to be working with us and drop us at the end, because we in the light of us oversighting National Treasury, we are now in the process of recommending. We are making observations and we are recommending. And I am thankful also to the DA member who just mentioned the fact that the proposal by National Treasury is unrealistic. He just admitted to that. Now, why should we, while we are oversighters of the department, leave it at that? Why should we allow it to stand unrealistic and have a negative impact upon the economy? That's the thing. That's why I'm saying that I do not see why, and it has nothing to do with an already discussed position or what. This has to do with how we position the people in our discussions, because once our economy is negatively affected, then the majority of the poorest of the poor will be most affected. So let's leave it at that and see what National Treasury comes up with. Because if they become unrealistic, why should we just follow suit?
Thanks, Honorable Abraham. Honorable Skosan. Skosan.
Very much, Honorable Chair, and greetings to members. Now, I want to concur with Honorable Abrahams that I think this statement, it arises from the fact that we've got past experience. I think that's why it says, given the past experience. So we're pleading that let's put plans that are realistic. But I think that does not stop the Treasury to achieve any goal prior that particular time frame. If they do achieve that earlier than that realistic time frame that we shall have put it, I think it is a bonus. But it helps, I think, to put a realistic time frame so that it's not us again who will blame them if they are failing to achieve. Whereas we have realized that they have set goals that are not realistic, but we said no, they are fine. Then when they don't achieve, it will be us who will be blaming them. Whereas we have seen that their goals are not realistic. So it's better, I think, to put time frames that are realistic. But in case they achieve that earlier than that particular time frame, I mean, that would be a bonus.
Okay, thanks. Content advisors, can you find a formulation that would be able to reconcile the views of committee members for progress?
Okay, Chairperson, just one last comment, if I may.
Okay.
Mr. Skosana made a suggestion which I think is quite, I'm quite amenable to. I don't know about other members. If we say that we welcome that commitment, we're concerned about the timelines, but if they do achieve that in those timelines, we would really, that would be a bonus. I think he said was something like that. Then I could live with that, as long as we are welcoming that commitment and not giving them a free get out of jail free card.
Okay, thanks, Honorable Lewis. I think the quartet advisors will be able to assist with that formulation. 6.13.
Dr. George had a comment on 13.
Dr. George.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think this is another item on which our positions are fairly far apart. Right at the end, the last sentence makes reference to us wanting briefing from the Minister on the development of the state bank. We obviously have stated several times that the state-owned enterprises have certainly failed and are nothing more than just bottomless pits into which a whole lot of money, people's money, is thrown. So we would not support another state-owned enterprise, certainly not in the form of a state bank. So as much as the Minister can give a progress report, we don't support the development of the bank. I just want that position to be stated and clear. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Dr. George. Honorable Lewis.
Yeah, that covers me, Chair.
Okay, you are covered. But that's the matter that came from the Minister. And he said it's a responsibility that he has delegated to the Deputy Minister. So I think the Minister and the Deputy Minister, when they are here, they will have to clarify as to, in regard to that responsibility, how far are they? Agreeing or not agreeing is something else, but it's a policy position of government. But we note your rejection of such an initiative. Let's move to 6.14.
Chairperson Eunice.
I am here just for the record. It's David Masondo.
Okay.
Yeah, but I took note of what you said.
Okay, Montega, Honorable Karim, then we are coming on Dogoden. Honorable Karim, I wanted to say Dr. Karim. Maybe I can give you an honorary. Honorable Karim.
I know you're an
That's enough.
No, Comrade Chair.
Prof. Karim.
No, I know. Particularly you're my sister, right? That doesn't give you the right to confer a degree on me, right? And so is it with you, Joe. You have a lot of powers as the chair of the NA committee, but not the right to issue me with a PhD. Dr. Masondo will get upset. He worked very hard for his PhD. But, Comrade Chair, I'm sure all of us will agree. It's nothing controversial. That should not have appeared there at the end of that paragraph. It doesn't fit in. It's a separate paragraph, obviously. And in the last minute, you and I sort of, didn't pick that up. So it's obviously a separate paragraph. So I think we should separate it, colleagues.
Yes, but it remains part of the report. It has been
yes.
a number of times. So,
Chairperson, you're absolutely right. All we're asking for is for the committee to be briefed. But as is known, even to the peasants in Mongolia, the ANC's position is to set up a state bank. I think the EFF also supports that. And in fact, they have a bill before the parliament in regards to that, a private member's bill. So I don't think there's any to apologize for. That is the position of the majority party, which won 8% of the vote. And it's going to happen. The whole issue is when and how. So I don't think we need to apologize. But as the sentence is there, it's pretty lame, actually. It simply says we're going to get a briefing. That's all. What's the problem with the briefing, Dion and Jordan? You can maybe learn something, and so could we. That's all the thing is saying. But you know full well that is our position. Thank you.
And this thing of Honorable Karim speaking for the EFF, do you have a tactical alliance with Honorable Shibam?
Not at all. Ask him. Not at all. Simply that one observes, like the peasants in Mongolia will, that's the EFF's position. Their position, as you remember, Chairperson, is an interesting one. It's something the ANC shouldn't be dismissive of unless there are things that, we don't know. Their position, if I understand it, I'm not their spokesperson, is to look into the possibility of the African Bank, which is something our committee in the last term, Dikeledi will remember and Floyd will remember, we did look at to rescue the African Bank. So, that's not something we should preclude. That should be part of our corpus of issues to discuss. Thank you.
Okay, let's listen to Honorable Bushbambu speaking for the EFF. Honorable Bushbambu, you have got an alliance partner now on the name of Honorable Karim. Over to you. Bushbambu, are you there? Okay, we'll come after. Honorable Deputy Minister, can you say something in regard to the issue of the State Bank?
No, I think your summary and guidance, Chair, was useful, and I concur with it, because the President, as well as the President, if I'm not mistaken, but as well as the Minister, has made it clear that we will be establishing the State Bank. So you're right in saying that we will come back and brief Parliament through this committee insofar as the progress is concerned on this issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Deputy Minister. 6.14.
Hi, Chair. I've got
Mr. Ryder.
Chairperson, thank you very much. It's just actually it's a grammar thing. So there's a word there in the third line that says is in uncharted territory. It's actually uncharted, so without the ER. It's just a frequently misused word and really quite a pedantic amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, can we attend to that, drafters? And then 6.15. .16. .17. .18. .19.
Mr. Dutoy, Chair.
Honorable Dutoy.
Honorable Chair, thank you for the opportunity. Honorable Chair, I suggest that we change 6.19 to read as follows, that the committee notes the allocation of 3 billion rand to the Land Bank and not welcomes. We're not welcoming this. It is as a result of maladministration and wrong leadership on that side that we have losses in the Land Bank. The current losses and deficits that we have there is as a result of money being borrowed at a high interest rate and then lending it out at a lower interest rate, thus resulting in a loss for the Land Bank. So we cannot welcome the fact that we're giving another 3 billion rand to the Land Bank. Just note it, please.
Okay, Honorable Dutoy. Honorable Lewis.
Yeah, Chair, I'm largely covered, but I don't think that our committee should ever be welcoming any bailout to any state-owned entity, because a bailout is by definition the result of some mismanagement, corruption, unsustainable business model, poor leadership, whatever the case is at that SOE. So I don't think that we should ever welcome a bailout. and that we should reflect our concern for the sustainability of the land bank and the business model there.
Honorable Ockham.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Yeah, I have been partially covered with this. I would just also like the word, you'll see the sentence, the land bank is a strategic entity that should not be allowed to fail. I would like the word again be put after fail, because it has already failed. And I think this gives us a clear indication of what happens when a bank is run by government. The ANC now wants a state bank, and we saw what happened to both the African Bank and to Land Bank. And I think that should set a very nice roadmap of where a state bank will lead to in the future. But that is just on the side. I just think it's important to put in there that it should not fail again, because it's already failed. And when a bailout like this is given, it is given due to the fact that failure has already occurred at that stage. Thank you.
Okay.
Chairperson, I'm sorry.
Honorable Mahlangu.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think I differ with the speakers who have spoken on 6.19. And I think we all understand the role and the importance of the land bank, given the situation that we find ourselves in, and the importance of making sure that we have a food bank and all that, and the role that the agriculture sector is going to play. And I just want to humbly request, Chairperson, that we should not always be negative. We need to give credit where it's due. When government is not doing well, we need to be very hard on them. And where we think they have intervened in terms of a problem that we think it will benefit the citizens, we should welcome that. I understand what Honorable Lewis is saying, that the issue of bailout is a problem, and I think I agree with you that this is set out of experience, and we've been very hard on Treasury in terms of the issue of bailout. We don't want to hear the word bailout, but coming to this issue of land bank, we need to reason ourselves. What is it that is going to do? How is it going to help? The intervention is going to help. This is what they say, the intervention is going to help. Ours is to make sure that this intervention is doing what it's supposed to do, is going to benefit the relevant people. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Mahlangu. I think we have dealt with the noting and the welcoming debate. However, okay, Honorable Karim.
Yeah, if nobody else wants to speak, because the norm is we speak at the end, right? And you're about to do that. Just to say, look, firstly, I agree with everything. Sorry? Is there somebody else who wants to speak? No?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair, please.
Oh. Okay.
Honorable Karim, then Honorable Njand.
All right. Sir, Chairperson, firstly, I agree with everything Comrade Mahlangu says, right? So the way to put it may be, and Chairperson, we ourselves, as the ANC, have repeatedly said that that's workers' money. It's often workers' money and money for the poor. And we don't support state-owned entities behaving as badly as they have. We've said that repeatedly in our report. So I think the opposition party must take that into account. They've only to refer to our recommendations and our observations in other reports to see we said exactly that. So I think what might help is, firstly, we can't say no to Comrade Chair. We have to welcome it. Because of the crucial role of the land bank, it is a very strategic asset. The fact that it's gone wonky now and then, which is bad, doesn't detract from the importance of having it. So I certainly think we can't say no. We actually have to welcome it. But what we can say is the point I think Dikeledi suggests, if I can extrapolate from what she's saying. I think we should put in something there about noting, in the last sentence, taking into account or noting, we can find the wording for that, the land bank's challenges over the last few years. The committee commits itself to exercising a rigorous oversight over the land bank and requires it to report at least twice a year to the committee. And we also recommend that National Treasury exercises more effective oversight of the land bank. Chairperson, because we don't want to come back to a situation 2 to 3 years from now, where we are welcoming yet another 3 billion, but between 2020 and 2022, we're back to where we were in 2022, where we are in 2020. So, Chairperson, I plead that we should say something that you see, finally, Chairperson, it's a point we've repeatedly raised. You see, we like, folding our arms and criticizing, which is, oversight doesn't involve that, as Comrade Mashlangu also says every now and then. It also involves our active, rigorous, and vigorous oversight. So if the land bank fails, it's not just a reflection on the land bank and National Treasury. It's just as much a reflection on Parliament. We're not doing our job. So I think we should commit to exercising rigorous oversight. In fact, we have called them before the committee, you recall, Chairperson, from your side. A joint meeting was going to follow, and they pleaded with us for various reasons that they postponed it. So I suggest we meet with them reasonably soon after we've voted on the disaster management relief bills. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Njandu, then Honorable Okam.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. I think I want to align with myself with Honorable Yunus and Honorable Mashlangu, because the fact that we had an engagement with Land Bank, and that gave us a clear indication as to where are we coming from and what is the importance of the Land Bank. So I'm covered, Chair, in terms of Honorable Mashlangu and Honorable Yunus, because the asset is an important asset for government. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Honorable Okam.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, yeah, we are now saying that we are welcoming this. I heard what the Honorable Karim said with regards to oversight. The problem with this is that the old saying of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but to expect a different result. If oversight is not going to take place, we will sit here in a few years' time again, not with a 3 billion, but maybe with a 10 billion or other amount that Land Bank will need. The question here is not only the amount that is being given, but also the management changes that will need to take place within Land Bank for it to not again lose this money and not again lose the taxpayers' money. We can say that Land Bank is strategic, but if Land Bank is not doing what it's supposed to do and losing the money, it is strategic again in throwing us down this fiscal problem that we are in. So I think it's of utmost importance that there must be an oversight and there must be target settings, key performance indicators that must be met. Otherwise, we will sit here in the same position again, and we will have to answer to the people out there why we have, and again, on another state-owned enterprises, just wasted one hell of a lot of money.
Okay, Honorable Okam, but we all agree that the committee requires a detailed briefing from the bank and National Treasury on its challenges confronting the bank. And the sooner that meeting takes place, the better. So do we all need that detailed report as soon as possible?
One last thing, Honorable Chair. My point is just maybe we should have received that report before we decided to give them that money. The money should follow the report and their accountability, not the other way around. Thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Okam. Secretariat, can you make sure that National Treasury and the Land Bank meeting is scheduled as soon as possible? As you can see that this is a serious matter for members. Thanks. 6.20.
Sorry to go back, Chair, but Skosana also wanted to raise something on 19.
19. Okay. Honorable Skosana.
No, thanks, Chair. No, in fact, I'm covered for your summary. But the point that I wanted to emphasize is that when we say we welcome, it does not necessarily mean that we are condoning the wrong things that have been happening at Land Bank. All what we are saying is that we welcome the action of assisting them because we understand the important role that the Land Bank has to play. Not necessarily that we are condoning wrong things that have been happening. But I think the process is that Honorable Karim and other members and yourself have raised to say we need to play our role to make sure that we assist them and make sure that the wrong things that have been happening, they don't continue. We need to emphasize on that. But I think the statement as it is to say we welcome, I don't think we need to change that. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks. If you remember, in one discussion, we agreed that there's this issue of SOEs reform and so on. When we were discussing, I think it was the report of the PBO or FFC, I can't remember, that we'll need to get that plan of SOEs reform. What is this SOEs reform all about? And where is it taking the SOEs to? So that we have a comprehensive plan of how the SOEs are going to be reformed, but we also have a specific reform plan for each and every entity. And the Land Bank is one of those. And I believe that by the time Treasury comes, they will entertain the matter that was raised when we got a recommendation from PBO in terms of getting a comprehensive SOEs reform. But be that as it may, we need an urgent meeting in regard to the detailed plan on how to rescue the Land Bank and how does it take its business forward in the agricultural sector. Let's move to 6.20. $6.21.
Sorry, Chair, I was struggling to unmute myself. I had a point on 620.
Okay, Honorable Lewis.
Yeah, this is actually very important to me, Chair. The 200 billion rand government guaranteed loan scheme is probably the most important part of the 500 billion rand support package for businesses. I mean, TERS is very important, but that's 40 billion. And this is hugely significant to helping businesses survive this crisis. But the initial evidence, as you've said in this report, is that it's being rolled out very slowly. Now, the minister in his speech said that there is going to be some redesigns to that scheme, that program, to make it work quicker and better. But his speech was 2 weeks ago, and we still haven't had any progress or announcement or details on those redesigns, what they are. So I was going to suggest that we add in a sentence here, please, saying that we urgently await details and progress on the redesign of the scheme to make it work more efficiently and faster.
Okay.
As the minister committed to in his speech.
Okay, I think nobody is vehemently opposed to that. So you see, Honorable Lewis, that the state has got an important role to play in the economy. Now we want their 200 billion. So I hope you understand that role.
It's being distributed by banks with a state guarantee. That is the appropriate balance between the partnership between the state and the private sector.
So
yeah, but banks won't give that unless the state came to the rescue, Mr. Lewis. So it's not a liberal state.
Get money
state is an enabler, not a leader.
Okay, thanks, Honorable Lewis. 621. 623. 624. 625. Is this observation and observation too long? Is it Honorable Abraham?
Yes, Chair, it's me.
Yes, you are recognized.
Chair, I think with the recommendation at 6.24, we need some time frames there, because I think that's too open. We're just saying the committee believes that the interest rate spreads remain high and commercial banks could consider cutting them in view of the unprecedented crisis confronting the country. National Treasury should work on this and brief the committee so that it does not just remain at being a statement and we don't have them having to revert back to us and report and give them some time frames as well. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Honorable Abraham. 6.25.
Sorry, Chair. Rider here.
Yes, Chair, to refer you to Mr. Maita for 6.24.
Oh, okay. Honorable Rider.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. The paragraph as it stood was already not necessarily quite correct or justifiable. I wasn't going to make any comments on it, but certainly I think that margin squeeze for commercial banks is already worse in low interest environments. Partly due to the lower returns that you get on free money, but further reducing margin would have through the reduction of interest rate spread would hurt viability of the banking sector. And I mean, the banking sector's viability has been what got us through the last financial crisis. And if we start over-regulating the banking sector, I think it could be dangerous. So I think the paragraph as it was is noted, not entirely agreed with, but I really wouldn't suggest that we add anything more to that.
How do they make money, Honorable Rider, in America and other countries where the rates are zero or quite less?
Volumes in America, Chair. If you look at the population being 6.5 times our population, yeah, that's the issues.
Okay. That's that. I think it's a matter, as has been raised, that Treasury will have to brief us about, because on the previous paragraph, we talk about the role of the Reserve Bank in the situation that we find ourselves, and issues of repo rates and interest rates are issues of the Reserve Bank, which it is its domain. So in the main, we are talking about monetary policy. And in the next, when are we meeting them, Alan? Is it next week or the week after next? Alan.
Sorry, Chair, I lost connection. Just say again.
I think we'll be meeting the Reserve Bank and the National Treasury in regard to the disaster management bill. When will that be?
Oh, that's next week, Tuesday, Chair.
Yes, I think these are issues that should be raised with them when we meet them, because that is their terrain. 6.25.
Well written again, Chair, because it talks to the issue of conditions and how we need to be briefed, that the Treasury be open to us in terms of not compromising the sovereignty of the country. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, so we'll await the briefing from the Minister in regard to him approaching the multilateral financial institutions. So Secretariat, can you make a follow-up with the departments that as soon as possible we get the minister to brief Parliament? 6.26. .27.
Dr. George.
I had my hand up for 626.
Or 626. Honorable Lewis, then Dr. George.
I do not support any change to the PIC's mandate. The PIC is an asset manager for the benefit of public sector pensioners, and the PIC should have only one mandate, and that is to grow its funds and manage its investments to the best interests of the people that it serves, who are civil servants who are saving very hard for retirement, and those who are already in retirement, and to minimize the burden on the state and the public, because if the PIC's investments do not perform well, it is the state and the public who have to pick up the slack, because those pensions are guaranteed. So I would ask that we delete that paragraph.
Dr. George.
Chairperson, I wanted to talk on 27, but I would support the proposal from Honourable Eel Lewis. Thanks.
Okay.
What is the motivation for deleting the paragraph? I mean, Honourable Chairperson, we should also respect the integrity of the drafters, because some of these observations and recommendations are as a result of our own discussions. So I didn't quite get the essence, because at the end, Honourable E. Lewis just dropped the bomb that the paragraph should be removed. Otherwise, in his statement, I didn't get anything that is so negative about the paragraph that it had to be removed. Can I get clarity, Chairperson?
Yeah,
yes, sure.
It gave reasons that the PIC's responsibility should be to look after the pensions of the workers, and its mandate should not be broadened. I think that's the thrust of his debate in regard to 6.26. Maybe he can speak for himself. He's here. He's in the platform. Honourable Lewis.
Yeah, you've got me quite well, Chair. I'm simply saying that the PIC has a simple mandate. It is there to look after public sector workers in their retirement, and it cares for and manages the money of all of those millions of public sector workers who are saving now for their retirement, and that should be respected and protected. And the important point that I made was that it is the public and the state that guarantees those pensions if the PIC's investments do not do well. So if the PIC underperforms, the burden falls to the public, and that's not right either. So that's why I was saying that I don't agree with that paragraph in its entirety.
Okay. So that's that, Honourable Abraham. You got what his motivation is. Okay. Okay. 6.27. Dr. George.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. This was certainly a matter that we discussed in the committee. Instead of government actually asking how it can access private pensions to invest in suboptimal investments, we should rather be asking, government should be asking itself how it can assist individual members of pension funds to leverage their assets that are theirs, especially during this crisis. So I certainly would not support us pursuing a prescription of assets, especially given we know the performance of those assets would be suboptimal given the performance of the investments that we've already seen. So that certainly wouldn't be in the interests of members of funds, and also certainly not members of the public who have to underwrite underperformance then if it's via the PEC or the GEPF. So instead of that, government should be asking how it can assist individuals now during this crisis to leverage the assets they have in their pension funds. For example, we currently do permit housing loans. There is no reason why this cannot be extended to loans wider than that, especially now during this crisis, and allow individual people who actually own the money to use that as a backing for a loan that would assist them right now. So I do think that we should have some paragraph in there that something along the lines of the National Treasury should consider how pension fund members can leverage their retirement fund assets to improve their personal financial circumstances, especially during the COVID-19 disaster. So instead of government saying, how can I take your money to invest it in probably suboptimal investments of mine, rather, how can I help you to access leverage from your own money to make your situation better, especially now in this crisis? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Honorable Skosan.
Yeah, my apology to take you back. I just lost connection a little bit. I was on 6.26. Okay. I just lost connection a bit. Yeah, I don't agree with Honorable Hill Lewis to say let's remove this sentence or this paragraph. Because the same workers that he's talking about, I think when they retire, they want to retire to have nice houses with running water, with sewer, with electricity and all that, with good road infrastructure and all of these things. So all those things, they require money. See, government need to use money in order for our people, in order for those workers, so that when they retire, they've got nice homes where they can be able to stay. So I think the essence of this paragraph, my understanding is that we make funds available in order to assist with development, infrastructure development for the same workers when they retire and their families. So I don't think there's anything wrong with this particular paragraph. And I think he also said himself that government is responsible if anything goes wrong with wherever the PIC shall have, invested the money. If anything goes wrong, the government will take responsibility. So even in this case, if part of those funds are used for development, if anything goes wrong, government will also take responsibility. So I don't see anything wrong with that particular paragraph, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much.
Thanks. If you remember at one, I'm not sure whether the president was answering the oral questions or it was a State of the Nation address. He went into details as to how we can unlock money from the prescribed assets to deal with the challenges that we find ourselves in. And it was long before COVID-19 hit the world and South Africa in particular. So the matter of prescribed assets is not the first time that it comes here. The president himself brought this matter to the National Assembly, and I don't remember members being vehemently opposed to what the president presented at that time. So it might be how that can be done, which has to be looked at probably when Treasury comes. We'll have to brief us because some of those entities report to them. Now let's move to 6.28. Revenue, 304 billion shortfall.
Chairperson, excuse me. We were on 6.2.7.
Yes. You want to say something on 6. You made a point earlier on. Do you want to come back?
Yes, Chair.
Dr. George?
The point that I was making was obviously I do not support the prescription of assets, certainly not, and I've explained that. But what I am saying is that I would like to include in that report is that the National Treasury should consider how pension fund members can leverage their retirement fund assets to improve their personal financial circumstances, especially during the COVID-19 disaster. So what I'm proposing is that the National Treasury actually needs to think about what's been raised, because I have raised this issue before about possibility of increasing the scope of pension-backed lending. So, for example, members can now currently lend for housing, which is a good thing. It gives them an asset on which to leverage. But there's no reason why these loans could not be a wider scope, given that we have this crisis now. And it is the members' money, and they do not have to make withdrawals from the fund at all. It would just serve as a backing for a loan that would be repaid over time. So quite frankly, it is a good financial instrument that could be used, and Treasury does need to consider that. So instead of focusing on how it can get its hands on pension funds to invest in suboptimal ventures, it should rather be looking at how it can help the public, the members of funds at this moment during this crisis, because there's real hardship. And we do not want them to make a withdrawal. And there is a way to do that. So I really would insist that the Treasury needs to look into that. Not saying they must change it, but they must look into it. Because once they start looking into it, we start close to what is possible, we will see it is possible, and it can alleviate the difficulties we have now, and it can preserve pensions at the same time. So that is all I'm asking, that we should include in this report a recommendation that the National Treasury should consider how pension fund members can leverage their retirement fund assets to improve their personal financial circumstances, especially during this COVID-19 disaster. It is possible, and it does need to be done. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Dr. George. Treasury is here. They are listening. So in the next briefing to the committee, I think it's a matter that they will have to attend to. So Secretariat, note the matter raised by Dr. George in regard to 6.27. 6.28, revenue. Okay, 6.29. $6.30. If you remember, we are still awaiting the minister to come to Parliament to brief us about the outcome of the Party Commission. At some stage, we had to postpone a meeting due to the fact that the minister was not ready. So, Secretariat, let's make the follow-up with the Office of the Minister as to when will he be ready to come and brief the committee on the Party Commission outcome. 6.31. $6.32.
Chairperson, please, if I can come in on 632. It's just a bit poorly written. It says the committee requires to be briefed on why this is being proposed. And then leads on what the implications of zero-based budgeting. So it's just zero-based budgeting needs to move towards the beginning of the sentence, and it needs to read something like the committee requires to be briefed on why zero-based budgeting is being proposed. I presume that's the intention behind the sentence.
Yes, no, you are right. Drafters
I agree
to that. Honorable Abraham, are you the platform?
No, Chair, I was just in agreement with the honorable member on the 6.32 observation. Thanks.
Yeah, can it be properly formulated in regard to zero-based budgeting? As to the statement should be clear as to what is it that the committee requires Treasury to do. 6.33.
Chair, just clarity, man. I don't know. I'm not English, but I just wanted to check the accuracy of hunger stalking the country. Just wanted us to look at that, and if it's correct, I'm fine.
Which paragraph, Honorable?
I'm sorry not to indicate, Chair. It's 6.33 where it says the committee understands the severe and unprecedented constraints on the budgets, but believes that in view of the hunger stalking the country, I just wanted to check the correctness of the concept of hunger stalking the country. And if it is indeed correct, then I'm fine, Chair. But I just wanted to set my mind at rest as to the correctness of the language used there. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Can the language be attended to, the grammar?
Chairperson, it is correct, but if people find they want it reworded, I'm sure the team can do that. But it's correct, actually.
Okay, thanks, Chairperson. 6.34. 6.35. 36. Public submissions. 37. 38. 39. And the post of Auditor General has been advertised. Those of you who have got an interest and want to divert from Parliament to be in the public service, you can apply. So we wish Mr. Makwetu well, and he has done very well in his responsibility. Where's brought the new member here?
There's a new member in the committee.
But the new member is below 18. Is it a new member allowed to be a member of Parliament?
I'm sorry about that, Chair.
Yeah, the new member will still have almost another 16 or so years to qualify. Okay, let's move on. 6.40.
Chair, just
Chairperson.
George.
Chairperson. Yes. Yes. Thanks. Thank you, Chairperson. I agree with the sentiment that we want to have as much participation as possible in the committee, but I really do not think that we should be fixated about what people look like when they appear in front of the committee. Obviously, we want to have a lot of diverse opinions, and that would be something if we want to look in terms of diversity, etc. But I think certainly it doesn't matter what the person looks like, what their race is, what their gender is. I mean, they're coming to put some position to Parliament, and Parliament is representative of all of the people. So I feel incredibly uncomfortable commenting here on the physical appearance of people who have come to give inputs to the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. There is a parliamentary public participation model that Parliament has adopted some times back. If we can look at that, and as public representative, we encourage as many members of the public and stakeholders, different organizations as possible to come and make submissions. So let's stick to what is in the parliamentary model of public participation. without going into detail in regard to the demographic, but it was a matter of noting or observation in regard to the previous experience. But our intention is to encourage public as broad as possible to make input on issues of public interest, and in this regard, a budget. Honorable Lewis.
Yeah, I support what you've just said now, Chair. I just object to the idea that you know only a certain demographic can represent poor people. I don't think that is a South African value that we should support at all. So I support what you've just said now.
Thanks, Honorable Lewis. We have come to an end of observations and recommendations. Now we have to come to the adoption of the report. Honorable Karim.
Yeah, just very quickly, obviously we have to reflect accurately what changes are to be made. And as chairs, we are ultimately accountable, as you know. So we've never had a situation before. We've had our disagreements. We've never had a situation before where, you know, we come to some agreement on changing the report, and then, you know, the opposition parties complain that we haven't accurately represented their changes. So some of the changes, I think, in fairness to the team and yourself and me, it's not very clear what it is that's being proposed. And so, you know, the one that troubles me a bit is 6.3. So it's a rather long paragraph. I suggest it's too long and we can shorten it or separate it into separate paragraphs. But it's a vitally important thing to put in observations. It can't go into another section because the president didn't address us. The minister did. And I think the aim here is, you see, people are drawing a distinction between the president's positions on the one hand and the ministers on the other. And what the report says is that we do not buy that. In other words, the president chairs cabinet, and ultimately the budget is not the ministers, it's governments, and ultimately, you know, the president accounts for government. So we don't do that. But on the other hand, what the committee is asking for, if you look at the text of that, is to what extent does this, it's a sub-theme both in civil society and ourselves as the ANC, and in fact, maybe one other party, is to what extent does this budget adequately reflect a more state-led growth part, which is what, in fact, the committee, the majority in the committee holds by. So I think, Comrade Chair, between you and me, we should settle this outside, but to alert other members that actually what's there is setting out that it's not like we are making an ideological position. We're literally quoting, the team helped us to find those quotations, remember? So I think we should be careful about that one. And the others, you know, Chairperson, I mean, you know, something shouldn't be inserted into the recommendations. They should really be observed by the DA as their positions. But I'll be guided by you and the team when we finalize it. But on 6.3, I think we should just break it up a bit. But it'll be very problematic if we were to remove it from our observations because it's linked to the other recommendations we have. But perhaps it's something we can talk offline. I'm more alerting the other members that, you know, that's a difficult one to manage. The other changes, I think you and I can oversee the committee doing that. I also want to urge people to understand that we have to get this thing, Comrade Chair, into the ATC by 3 o'clock. Otherwise, we cannot vote in the House tomorrow. So whatever changes are made, Chairperson, you and I have to approve of the report by about 2:30. Thank you.
Thanks. As we're moving from one item to another, we were considering all the inputs that members were making. And I hope Secretariat has actually captured all those, irrespective of which political parties come from. There were inputs that came from opposition that we actually considered, and the report should actually look like that as we're discussing item per item. And my battery is getting low here. I have to recharge it before the next item. Now is the time for consideration of the report to be adopted. I have received email from Honorable Lewis that the DA rejects this report, and he gave reasons to that effect. And as you have indicated, Honorable Karim, that we'll have to capture in our report issues that are raised by members of opposition. And as we said, that there's no minority report, there is a minority opinion. And I think that what is going to be captured in our report. I also got an email from Honorable Shbambu that they are rejecting the report. Be that as it may, can somebody move for the adoption of the report?
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Jadu. Thank you, Chair. I hereby move for the adoption of the report. Thank you very much, Chair.
Now, Chairperson, perhaps we should explain, Mr. Njadu can't do that because, remember, it's just the standing committee members now. And then, Njadu, you can move when we move to the select committee side. Thank you.
sorry, Chair, sorry.
Thanks very much, Honorable Karim. Now is the time for the standing committee, NA, the other house. Not the lower or the upper, the other house. Now is the time the standing committee.
I so moved, Chair.
To deal with the house. Akbar Vessels, you want to say something?
Yes, please, Chairperson. Sorry, I was just not quick enough before you asked for a mover. I would just like to request that you also note the objection of the FF+.
Okay. Thanks, Akbar Vessels. Honorable Mabiletsa?
I so move, Chair, for the adoption.
Honorable Mabiletsa moves. Who seconds?
Seconded, Chair.
Honorable Abraham seconds. The DA object, FF object, EFF object. Okay. Alan, what are the numbers like? Does the mover, which is coming from the ANC, have more numbers?
Chair, quorum-wise, the committee is sufficiently covered. At my earlier count, there were 9 members. We only require 6 members, so we're covered.
Okay. So the report is adopted with those minority opinions that will be taken into consideration. Thanks. Is Treasury ready to brief us on the strategic?
What about the other house, Chairperson? The other house is finished.
Committee.
Oh, no.
We must ours.
We are being marginalized.
Okay. Over to you, Honorable Karim. Sorry about that. Yeah, the upper house of Lords, can the upper house of Lords now entertain the item?
Well, I haven't heard of a communist being in the upper houses of the Lords. So when I hear Zolani and Kiva speak, in Kosi, I wonder why he hasn't joined the Communist Party. But that's another story. To Sikoa, as I understand it from Nkululeko, we are quorate, and I now put the report with the amendment that wherever the term standing committee is used, and I think you have that version now, Poppy Ntaka and Nkululeko are working on getting that done to ensure it all appears as select committee. But exactly the same report. So the select committee report, which is the same in content as the standing committee report, can we have a mover, please? I take it, Mr. Njadu, you haven't changed your mind since 2 seconds ago, right?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, it was not separated earlier, so I'm moving for the report of the select committee. Thank you very much, Chair.
I take it, Mr. Rada, you seconding it?
Certainly not, Chair, if you can note the objection of the Democratic Alliance.
Okay. And we take it the EFF objects. Oh, yes, Mr. Maletsane, you're there, yeah.
Yes, I'm here, Chairperson. Thank you. EFF object the report.
That's a huge surprise. Okay, over then to seconder to the report.
I've got Mr. Joy, Chair.
Oh yeah, Mr. Jutoy, needless to say, yeah.
Honorable Karim, obviously I'm not seconding the report. Please note the objection of the Freedom Front Plus.
That came as a shock. It was funny, but all right. Finally, second. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Dikeledi Mashlango. Okay, right, good. Can we move on? This is a very strange way of voting on a report. There's a mover and then there's all these objections in a second. I take it the sequence is the other way around. We recognize all the objections and the same report, obviously, we adopted. Therefore, the objections of the parties were noted appropriately. Having said that, we have a quorum. Is that right in Kuleleko?
Yes, Chair, we do have a quorum. We have 8 members present.
And a majority of ANC, am I correct?
No, Chair. It's 4 ANC members and 4.
Well, we'll have to come back to that because Zolani sent me repeated. Can you explain Zolani's problem? The IT people are addressing it.
Yes, yes, Chair. ICT is addressing that. They are saying Mr. Mkiva is having connection problem, but they are attending to him.
Yes, but now the question I want to put to you is, can you get some clarity on this? If he can send us an email, because it's an unusual situation, or a WhatsApp to confirm that he's voting, I would imagine that will be acceptable given the circumstances, because he did. People can check my WhatsApp. I can photograph it for you, and you can see, although there's some sort of personal exchanges. He says, I've been trying to reconnect since that time. Strange thing is that after I made that input, that's at 10:06. At 10:07, it's been 45 minutes, and the IT has been trying to assist me in vain. At 10:11, I say, well, I spoke to Nkululeko. He says, IT is helping. We definitely need you. Remember, we have to vote today. Yes, I'm aware. So I don't know what we do in this situation. But does anyone, is Frank here or any legal person here?
Yes, I saw Advocate Jenkins, Chair.
Can you help us? I mean, it's a technical problem. There's no rule that provides for this situation. But, you know, he's battling here since 10:12 to reconnect. Frank, what do we do now?
Chair, if it's for the quorum, we need that person engaged, but can't he phone quickly? It doesn't have to be a video or on this platform, but just he needs to know what's happening there and be present, if I'm understanding the question correctly.
All right, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to phone him now. Chairperson, can you go ahead with the NA side with the, what's this thing? APP and the strat plan. So I will record him on my thing to confirm that he's voting, and I will do that immediately. You know, I reach him on the phone. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Sorry, Dennis Ryder here, and I realize I may be being an impediment to what you're trying to achieve, and I think we all accept that it needs to be achieved. However, the rules of Parliament that were put out by the, I think it was the Chair of Chairs, clearly stated that the regulations relating to these online meetings clearly stated that you need to be logged on in order to be calculated for the means of a quorum. So, you know, if he needs to climb in his car and go sit under a cell phone tower or something, then maybe that's what needs to be done. I'm aware of people having been taken out of hospital to come and form quorums in the past, but you know, we can't just change things as they need to be changed. You know, it might be accepted today, but we must understand that could be precedent setting, and it could cause a problem going forward. So I think, you know, something needs to be done. He needs to be logged on physically. That was the requirement that was put out by the Chair of Chairs.
Look, I don't know what the rules say, but Frank has to guide us in that regard. So whatever he says, we'll have to go. And then people can go to court and challenge it if they want to. But I really think this is quite unnecessary. The situation is clear. I can give you a copy, Dennis. I can put this on the screen if you want. Well, he was with us. He spoke and he got cut off. So in Kululeko and the whip in Jadu, can you try to reach him to reconnect wherever he has to. Okay, thanks. Otherwise, look, we'll reconvene at about 5, sometime this afternoon, just to do the voting, which is something we've done before in situations where the NCOP, because it had a multiplicity of meetings, did itself. So it's been done. That precedent has been set already. A vote can be deferred, especially if it's 4-4. Somebody has to give. So, you know, it's from what I know, it's been done before. But look, let's not detail the NA. You can go ahead now. Those from the NCOP, we're required to sit together in this part as well, because at COVID, the decision was that we will also be involved in the APP and strat plan, as you know. All right, and those of you have issues with that can raise it with the powers that be. It's beyond the control of the chairs. So I'm back to you, Chairperson Maswangani, because I've got to also try to trace this, and I'll come back into the meeting. Okay, thanks, bye.
Okay, thanks, Honorable Karim. In the meantime, let's proceed with the agenda and move to the next item. The next item is the briefing by the National Treasury on its 2020-21 adjustment budget allocation and the impact thereof on its 2020-2021 strategic and annual performance plans. Deputy Minister, are you still in the platform?
Yes, no, Chair.
Okay.
May I ask the DG to lead us with the presentation?
Okay. DG, are you ready?
Yes, Honorable Chair. Good morning. I don't know if you can see me and hear me.
Yes, we can see you, we can hear you, we can see your slides.
No, thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity that you have given us to present to you the revised annual performance plan and strat plan. I'm with the team of Treasury colleagues, some DDGs, some with you know, our head of Department of Monitoring and Evaluation, Laurent Sem, who's going to do the presentation. But Chair, I just thought maybe since this is the first time we appear again, you know, in front of the committee after the interaction we had with the joint committees, I think it is appropriate from where I am, Chair, if you allow me just to offer my sincere apologies to the joint committees in the last interaction we had, whereby the committee felt that, you know, I didn't come out very clearly in terms of what I was saying. It was definitely not my intention, Chair, to offend the joint committees in any way. I do believe in the integrity of the Parliament, and as a cornerstone of our foundation of democracy, I do believe in that. I did not intend in any way to dictate to Parliament how you should respond to civil society and other organizations. And I believe that we should openly debate matters when need be with civil society, with any other stakeholder out there, and we welcome and open for that. And Chair, we will certainly make an opportunity to create an opportunity for us to engage on any matter. But however, I still want to reiterate the point that says, as we engage, we must be fact-based, and we must not intend in any way to not put the facts out as they are. So I'll leave it at that on this one and apologize.
Okay. Wait a bit. Hello, DG. Wait a bit.
Yes.
Wait a bit, DG. There's a member who wants to say something. Is it Honorable Njando?
Yes, Chair. I'm got hold of Honorable Mkiva. He's online now. He is on speakerphone. Can we proceed to give him to give his vote?
Okay. Wait a bit, DG. Honorable Karim.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, DG. It's unfortunate, but we also found Zolani. Zolani, are you there now?
Yes, I am here. I've been trying to connect via the microphone.
Okay. So can I confirm now that you're voting? What a silly question for the ANC's position.
I am voting in favor of the approval of the budget.
Yeah, that's quite shocking to hear that. All right, so in that case, we have a majority. So I put the vote now again. Members for it are 5, if I understand, and members against it are 4. And can you record that now? Move it again, please, in Jadu.
Pardon?
Can you move again, please?
Yes, I'm moving in favor of the report.
Dikeledi, you were the seconder.
Second with amendment.
Okay. In that case, the report is adopted. Frank, have we done everything according to the rules and regulations that apply under COVID-19 circumstances?
Yes, Chair. I've looked at the rules now. I think everything is fine, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Put it in the chat if someone wants to look at it as well. It's in the chat next to this meeting, the rules that was in the ATC. Thanks, Chair.
Sorry, DG. Chairperson, co-chairperson, I will come back to respond to the DG as well when he's done. But thank you for now. Over back to you, Chairperson Joe.
Chair, I'm speaking.
Yes, sorry.
Chair, thank you for the opportunity. Quickly, I think we need to just in future get clarity. Obviously, we are in strange circumstances, and I think this might be a first for Parliament where a person voted via a telephone and not being on the platform. I just think that
sorry, he is on the platform.
Clarity on this, please.
Sorry, no, hang on. He is on the platform.
No, he's not a registered member on this platform that was created by Parliament.
No, hang on. I think. Yeah. No, Willie, can I get some clarity? Is he connected on this platform or not? That's what I understood you to be saying in Jadu.
Yes, he's connected. As we have resolved that, we must get hold of him. So meaning he's connected.
Connected to what way?
He spoke earlier, so I don't think it's in his fault in terms of
I just happened to get cut, Chairperson, from initially when I spoke. I got cut and then I've been trying to reconnect, but now I'm in the platform.
The point that I want to make,
you are in the platform. Yes, that's what I understood it to mean, Billy. Is he not part of...
No, he's not on this Teams platform. He's on his cell phone, and that is why I'm just saying we just need to get
right,
on his cell phone. Remember, for clarity's sake, that can be a voice impersonator. I'm not saying it is, and I believe that it is, but we just clarity on this.
Okay, now, firstly, let's get some clarity on it. What sense is in this platform? Are you part of the Microsoft Teams participants in this meeting in Kiva?
Connected directly on the Microsoft through the phone, not through the connectivity of the data.
But you are connected to the meeting, is that correct?
Yes, I'm connected into the meeting.
Yeah. And I think valid, but can Frank actually look? People have to be understanding, right? This is a person living in a very remote rural area, and I don't think we should get. This is not Switzerland or Germany, please. It's a developing country where the vast majority of people do not live with an access like those of us who live in Winnie and Lucy and wherever have access to the masts and so on. So I don't think we should be unreasonable. So Frank, can you guide us, please, man? Because we don't want people now to hold up the NCOP process tomorrow and so on. Because tomorrow evening, the joint meetings of the appropriations takes place from 18:00 to 21:00, which cannot take place unless the NCOP also adopts the fiscal framework. So can we get some clarity from you, Frank?
Chair, I've looked at the rules, the NCOP rules pertaining to this matter. That's in the, if members want to see that, that's 20 April of this year. It's in the ATC. I've put it on the meeting chat, and those say that we can use any form of technology to conduct those meetings. What has happened here is that someone was online and it seems that they've lost the connection and they've come back and voted. I do not see a problem with that. They might have missed one or two things, but when the vote was taken, as Mr. Karim, as the chairperson has taken it now, there was a quorum, as I understand it from our committee secretary, and enough hands showed to pass the decision. So I do not see a problem with that, Chair. if there are two platforms, as you are saying now, and someone is phoning in with somebody else that's on the platform, there we can start discussing. But as I understand the NCOP rules, it says that you can use any form of technology. And we can discuss it, and I can consult further to make 100% sure, Chair, but I do not see a problem with what's happening here. It might be unprecedented, but if someone is on the phone because they can't get Wi-Fi, then I would accept that that's part of the meeting, and there's a quorum and there's a vote. Thanks, Chair.
Yes, I really think that's reasonable, especially as he was connected to us.
Honourable Chair, from my side, I don't have a problem with this. I understand Honourable Mkiva's situation, and we can accept this. It's from my side, it was just a question that we get clarity for future. I think this is unprecedented. It's the first time that it happens. We just need to clarify that for the future. I've got no problem. I recognize his voice, and obviously it is he is not in favor of this, so this is fine. But let's just get clarity on that, please. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Finally, just let me say one thing, Willie. Not so long ago, I had to do. In fact, I've done 2 talks on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not into all that stuff. Not that I shouldn't be. So I was connected to the meeting via my cell phone to somebody who's on Facebook, and they heard my talk, and we functioned quite well, several times, twice at least, and people can ask questions. I was in an international parliamentary meeting where that happened to somebody. Obviously, there's no voting there some weeks ago, and it happened. So, you know, it is acceptable in the situation, but fine, I get your point. Mr. Frank Jenkins will deal with that. Thank you, Chairperson Masangana. You can take over again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Honorable Karim, and committee members of the Select Committee. DG, we note your apology. Please don't motivate an apology, whether it was wrong or it was right, or so just leave it as that you apologize unreservedly to Parliament, and you leave at that and you proceed with your presentation. But the moment you come with qualifications, then members will want to make follow-up. Just apologize unreservedly or unconditionally, and you leave at that. DG? We have lost
Chair,
the DG.
no, I was done, Chair. Thank you very much. I was done. I was simply saying it is not my intention to in any way dictate how Parliament should respond to civil society. That's the point I was making. And I was going to say, I'm going to give over to my colleague Laura, who's going to take us through what National Treasury allocated to us as the departmental budget, because clearly we had to obviously make some amendments, and we'll take the committee through the revisions and amendments to the strategic plan and annual performance plan that we issued. With your permission, Chair, I will request Laura to put the presentation on the screen. Thank you.
Before Laura, DG, are you apologizing to the committee, or you are giving some explanations? We want to put that on record. In Parliament, when somebody is found to have done something which is not palatable to members, and you are requested to apologize, you have to do that and be put on record before you call Laura to be on the platform.
So maybe we got distracted by the earlier interaction with the committee was voting. I did say, Chair, I apologize, and I do apologize unreservedly so. I thought, Chair, that was the point I was making right at the beginning. And I said the second point, I said I believe in the integrity of Parliament and Parliament's oversight. And finally, I also said that it was not my intention to dictate. That's what I said, Chair. But yes, you are right. I do apologize unreservedly to the committee in any way.
Okay. Thanks.
Since we've got there, can I just come in? Firstly, I think the DG has done the right thing. I also would like to say that when I responded that day, I wasn't responding as an individual member. Actually, I was responding, maybe we'll use different words, in the way you would have, Chair, or any Chair in Parliament would have done. Once again, we want to emphasize, I imagine you'll agree with me, Chair, and most of the committee members, the DG and all the officials are free, not only the DM and the Minister, to be robust in the exchanges with us and with civil society, because we can be tough on them too. So that's not the problem. The robustness wasn't the issue. The issue was, well, what the DG's covered already. It's the value and crucial importance of civil society, no matter what we think of their representations, role in public hearings. Without that, Parliament's dead. It's dormant. And so that public hearing things is what we all fought for, including, all the members of this committee that were part of the struggle. So that was the issue, not his particular views on the Economist Initiative or anybody else. And we won't be used, as we said, by either party, National Treasury and civil society on the other hand. But to be fair to the DG, that was not his typical attitude as I know it. I've known him for many years. I didn't mean it to come out such that people in civil society and elsewhere are making much of a fight, as if it's an individual fight between me as a member of this committee and the DG. It certainly isn't personal. And if I wasn't a committee chair, I wouldn't have taken such a strong position, but I would hold to those views and values. I think we should move on, Chairperson. I think you've covered it. He's covered it. And just to say that I didn't expect this thing to become so viral, and the DG is not, that wasn't a reflection of his general attitude to Parliament. Thank you very much from my side.
Thanks, Honorable Karim. I think the DG has apologized unreservedly, and let's take that as his word. DG, you can proceed and call another speaker to take the platform.
Thank you, Chair. We'll ask Laura to come in. She's got a screen presentation on the screen. Thank you.
Thank
you very much, DG, and good morning to the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to allowing National Treasury to present the appropriation adjustments and the amendments to our tabled SP 2025 and APP 2021. And in making our adjustments, we took into consideration the requirements to incorporate COVID-19 interventions, to amend our planned indicators and targets to reflect the adjusted 2020-21 budget allocation, and amended the planned indicators and targets where they have been impacted on by COVID-19 prioritization and the shutdown. And just to confirm to the committee, as of 2021, and as we had previously presented when we presented our SP and APP earlier, that in terms of our 2020-2021 financial year, National Treasury has 9 programs, of which Program 8, Revenue Administration, and Program 9, Financial Intelligence and State Security, are transfers. In terms of the special appropriation adjustments that have been affected are a total of 863,000 that was suspended, and 10,187,876 has been allocated. The principal allocation has gone to ALM in respect of the Land Bank. And in terms of programs that principally had funds suspended is in Program 3, Public Finance and Budget Management, which includes Budget Office, Public Finance, and Intergov Relations. The second largest adjustment was made to Program 9, which is the Financial Intelligence and State Security, followed by Program 7, Civil and Military Pension Contributions to Funds and Other Benefits, and finally to International Financial Relations. In terms of the detail of the projects or conditional grants budgets that have been adjusted, these include MFIP, which is the Municipal Financial Improvement Program, and this adjustment was in response to both the lockdown, but also in respect of recent previous financial years as surplus trends. IDIP, in the main savings that have been affected year to date. The Jobs Fund, these savings are in respect of operational expenditure savings. OCPO, which is the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer. The savings that have been realized in this area include the rescheduling of project planning of projects such as the state-owned suite of construction contracts pilot and its rollout, as well as the legal drafting of public procurement regulations and the property and leasing commodities listing. These projects have been rescheduled in terms of timing, and this has realized a saving. IFMS, this amount was saving was realized in respect of being paid in a previous financial year. The savings in terms of transversal systems was realized through consultants and computer services, where we've rescheduled new projects. And aspect of other, as well as Program 1 and Program 2, we have realized savings in terms of travel, training, venue hire, consulting services. The Municipal Revenue Improvement Program has been rescheduled. This is a new project, and we've rescheduled the timing of that project partially in response to the lockdown. Further allocation amounts that we have had as savings is the infrastructure skills development. Principally, the savings there is as a result of the lockdown. The Neighbourhood Development Partnership grant, principally that's capital expenditure savings, equally in terms of year to date as a result of lockdown. And then the allocations on injury on duty, political office bearers pension fund, post-retirement medical schemes and special pensions are all in respect of Program 7, and that's savings year to date, as well as the reduction of claim trends in certain claim types. There's been a allocation appropriation in terms of secret services was an adjustment on the transfer. And finally, the common monetary area, this is a year-to-date savings trend. These are the adjusted allocations that Treasury received for 2020-2021. As a result of this budget adjustments and in response to COVID-19, National Treasury then reviewed our tabled SP 2020-2025 and our AP 2020-2021. In terms of our SP, updates have been made to the situational informed by the supplementary budget, and those are in respect of the economic growth graphs that we included in the situational analysis and our debt to GDP outlook graph. Other than that, no amendments have been made to National Treasury's Strategic Plan 2020-2025. And we've made no adjustments to our outcomes or our indicators. In respect of our annual performance, we made similar adjustments to the situational analysis informed by the supplementary budget, and in particular, we made changes to the graphs and some of the text in relation to the growth outlook as well as the debt to GDP. We also have provided Parliament in respect of the business of Parliament with an updated list of the draft legislation that will be submitted during the course of this year that I understand has already been provided. In respect of the APP, National Treasury has only made 4 amendments to our indicators. Those amendments are in one indicator in Program 1 Administration, one indicator in Program 3 Public Finance and Budget Management, one indicator in Program 5, which is Financial Accounting and Supply Chain Management, in Program 6, which is International Financial Relations. Those changes are the following. In Program 1, the annual target has been reduced, and the proposal, the submission that we will be making is it has been reduced 70% to 25% of our spend on training and development. This is in the main due to the interpretation in terms of the availability and lockdown. Program 3, that we have recently not changed the annual target in terms of catalytic projects approved in targeted areas within metropolitan cities, secondary cities, and rural towns. The annual target remains 20. What we've done is we are rescheduling the quarter 2 and the quarter 3 targets into quarter 4. So quarter 4 will now have a target of 15. In terms of program 5, it relates to the IFMS. Again, we have not changed the annual target. It remains the same. What we've done is we've rescheduled the quarter 2 and quarter 3 so that they are covered by quarter 4, allowing for the project to then catch up any lag that occurred in quarter 1 and quarter 2. In terms of the final change that we've made in our APP is the same. We have, in terms of number of advocacy forums hosted for the uptake of developmental finances. This forum now will take place by quarter 4 and not in quarter 2. Therefore, similarly to our other targets, we have maintained the quarter 1 target, and then we have we've maintained the quarter 4 annual target, and we've simply rescheduled quarter 2 and quarter 3. So I'll hand back now to the DG. These are the changes that Treasury is putting forward in our APP and SP in response to the adjustments that have been made to our budget, as well as the impact of COVID-19 on our work streams.
Chairperson Masonga in Mapia.
That's the changes that you are presenting to the committee. Thank you.
Hi, is the co-chair there? Can people hear me?
Yes, Chair, we can hear you.
Yes, I just
can hear you.
Yeah, I see.
We couldn't. DG.
Yes, I think Mr. Maswangani is offline or battling. All right, well, you know, this is primarily an NA issue, so I'll chair for now, and then maybe the whip, Nokolo, can take over in a few minutes if the chair of the NA hasn't reconnected. So if I understand correctly, dear, the DG is battling to reach us, right? Or we can't hear him, is that correct? I can't hear him anyway. DG, are you there? Or is it one of your colleagues that's battling to be heard?
I'm here.
Ellen, you're responsible for this part. Yes, sorry? Hello?
I can't hear him.
Yes, so is there somebody else who can manage that part for now from the Treasury side? Alan, are you there? Alan? Is Alan not there?
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
Right, can you help, please, man? So who's there from Treasury who could help? Is there a DDG online? Alan?
I saw Momo and Chris Axelson online earlier. I'll just check again if they're online.
Okay, I'm also looking. So, Chairperson is coming back now. Yeah. Sorry, what's that?
To the chair, It's Laura Mseme. I'm still online.
All right, can you continue, please? Because it's at 11:35 and the meeting's supposed to finish at 12. And I think, Alan, can we negotiate for the NA side a bit more time? I have to leave, unfortunately, at 12. So, Nkolo, are you around? Alan, is she there? She's the whip of the
I'm here.
NA.
I'm here. I'm here.
Can you
Yeah,
take over chairing, please, until the chairperson gets back? Can you take over chairing, please?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thanks.
That's fine.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay. I think Laura was still on the floor. Has the presenter from National Treasury finished with the presentation?
Yes, I have. Thank you, Chair. I've finished the presentation. We will be open for questions from the committee.
Honorable members, there it is. Treasury has just finished the first presentation. Can we get an indication from members who would like to have a comment or questions on the presentation? Alan?
I'm checking the chat line for now. There's only Spasana.
Okay. Honorable Skosana, can you take the stage, please? Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Acting Chair. We want to welcome the strategic plan of the National Treasury. I just want to ask a question which I'm not sure if it is indeed relevant. But the president, I think, during the corner, he spoke about the issue of the state-owned bank. So I just want to check with the Treasury as to how far are they in relation to that, because I see that their strategic plan is silent on that as part of perhaps their projects that they will be pursuing in the near future. Just want to check as to how far are they in relation to that, and if they would be pursuing that in the near future, when are we going to see such a big project being part of their plans in the near future? Thanks, Honorable Acting Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Skosana. Any other takers? In the absence of takers for now, can we have a response to that single question from Honorable Skosana?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question. On the matter of the State Bank, we had indicated to the committees when we presented our APP and our SP that the process in terms of us taking up the State Bank matter into the work of the National Treasury was that it was initially located under the auspices of the Ministry whilst research was being undertaken in order to define the work plan and the work progress. Once that research has been completed, which I understand it has been, it will then be presented to Cabinet and then be brought back into the work flow of Treasury. However, we had agreed with the committee, and we will honour that agreement, that in addition to our APP quarterly report, we will report the progress on the State Bank up until a point where we bring it into our APP, which will officially then be in terms of the 2021-22 APP, given that it would have gone through Cabinet after we had tabled this year's APP. So as we had agreed with the committee, we will report on the progress of the State Bank as an auxiliary report quarterly to the committee.
But Chair, can I just add, if you
Okay.
can hear me, that
yes,
work
yes, sure.
being work has been done. A preliminary report done by our GTEC, which is a subsidiary of the Treasury, has been completed to inform the options that are available for us as we move towards finalization of the establishment of a state bank. So the next step is obviously for us to go to cabinet with preliminary thoughts on what we think we have as ideally what a bank should be like, looking at the existing institutions similar like your Itala, your other banks that are there. So in a way, we working underway, ministers, honorable members. What we will do as soon as we come back from cabinet, we will obviously get back to parliament as part of Laura's report, that in a quarterly report will definitely report on the progress on the state bank. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's sufficient. The explanation that the DG has made, and the undertaking from Laura that at least quarterly we shall be having these reports. Are you good, Honorable Skosana?
Yes, no, I'm covered, Honorable Acting Chair. We will await for the update on their next quarterly report. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, there be no more questions on the reports. At this time, are you there, Honorable Chairperson Joe? Okay, thank you so much. We shall at this point really thank the... Are you there, Chair? Okay, sure.
Can you chair for the next 5 minutes? I've got problem with my sinuses. There was a bit of dust and pollen around.
But are you good, sir? Because we are rounding off. We are finishing the meeting now. Is it fine?
Are we done?
We're done, Chair.
So in which item are we? Closure.
So if you had any takers, we're still looking for takers on
close.
Laura.
Or you want Akhbara vessels to close the meeting for us?
No, it's dangerous to have you here for the last say. Very dangerous. It's very dangerous. No,
okay. Let me come back. It's just that I had a bit of nasal blockages, but I'm fine now.
Okay, sure. Yeah, just close the meeting.
Okay. This was the last item before we close. I think now we can move to the last item. Let me before. DG and then Deputy Minister, do you want to say something before I close the meeting?
Chair, I'm fine. Maybe Deputy Minister can come on board. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Mason, any remarks that you want to make before we close the meeting?
Mr. Principal.
Dr. Mason. It doesn't stay very far from me. We have got a fiber here. We don't have a problem of connectivity. So I don't know what's the problem.
He left the meeting.
He left the meeting?
Yes.
There is nothing that is hidden that shall not be exposed. You are exposed today, Chair.
Okay. Okay. So be that as it may, thanks very much, DG and your team. And then we have considered the report. We'll take it from there. And then thanks very much, honorable members of the Select Committee, led by Chairperson Honorable Karim, the Chairperson of Appropriations, Honorable Masangu, and other chairpersons who might have been present in the meeting, members of the Standing Committee on Finance. Thanks very much for having attended the meeting and participated. We will consider all the inputs that you have made in the two reports. Thanks very much. The meeting is officially closed. Thanks.
Thank you. Goodbye.